Hi, friends, and welcome once again to 15241 Today Talk. Jim Render and I are most pleased and honored to have the superintendent of the Upper St. Clair School District, Dr. John Rozzo, joining us today. Doctor, thank you very much for being with us. What was it about education at one point in your life that you decided that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be with you both.
Thank you.
Took a while to get you here.
Yes, it did. But I'm glad to finally be here. It started out. So my father was an educator. So my father was a math teacher. Then he was a high school assistant principal, high school principal, and I always looked up to him. To this day, he continues to be my role model, and so I had exposure to it throughout my entire upbringing, but I wasn't quite certain I wanted to go into teaching, and so in school I excelled in math and science, and so went to Penn State University. Wasn't quite certain what I wanted to do in terms of a career, but I had a strong interest in chemistry and physics. And so when I went there, I initially wasn't looking at a career in education. And as I was in my freshman year, actually a friend of mine who was one of my roommates, I began tutoring him, for lack of a better word, in some of his math courses. And he had said to me, did you ever think about going into teaching? And I really hadn't much until that point. And the more I worked with him, and the more I talked to my father, I decided that this might be the right fit for me. And so that's kind of how I got into education. Wasn't where I initially started, but I think having that exposure to my father, watching him in the profession, and then like I said, working with my roommate in college, and his feedback turned me on to the profession, and I'm glad I worked with him. Glad I had him as a roommate, because I'm not certain if I would be here today.
What's he do nowadays?
Interestingly, he's a polymer scientist. Works with IBM. So I'd like to take credit that I worked with him.
Yeah. Yes.
But yes,
Yeah.
very successful. Works in New York.
Was there when you were thinking about getting into education, and you had this great role model, and still do, right? Your dad's
Yes,
alive,
yes.
great. Was there a common theme that you saw from your dad as to how one should approach this profession?
Yes, my father, and still is the kind of person that wants to do everything the right way. Takes no shortcuts. Really treated people the right way. Tremendous work ethic. And then I saw the kind of response he got from students, from families. He was, the kind of person that everyone just had positive things to say about him. And he had a lot of, I think, had a real meaningful impact on families and on kids. And so I've tried to carry that on in my career. And I don't know if I'll ever be as successful as my father with that, but that's what I strive for.
Do you remember the first day you taught? Your exact first day as a teacher?
I actually do, yes. I started my career when I came out of Penn State. I was hired in the Brentwood School District. And so I was a science teacher in Brentwood School District, and I do recall the first day. And, it's you student teach in education, and you have your pre-student teaching a semester and student teaching for a semester, and you think you're ready, and you go in there and you realize now you're on your own, and it's a totally different ball game. But that was 21 years ago, and it seems like it was, just yesterday, and time certainly does go by quickly.
Speaking of that, you brought back memories of my, I student taught 50 years ago, but I still remember an awful lot about.
Yeah.
In fact, I had a kid that had a bullet in his head, and we're playing dodgeball in gym class. He wasn't allowed to play. He's sitting on the edge of the auditorium stage and got hit in the head with one of the balls. And I had another kid that had an epileptic seizure. I had experiences as a student teacher that never had in my career.
Sure.
So it's interesting. You talk about remembering your first day and so forth.
Yeah.
Let's go back a little bit further. Where did you go to high school, or where did you grow up?
So I grew up actually in Duquesne, Pennsylvania, over near Kennywood Park, was in my backyard. But I went to Catholic school my entire life. Graduated from Sarah Catholic High School in McKeesport. Then went on to Penn State, as I had mentioned. Did my graduate work at California and my doctorate at the University of Pittsburgh. So I've had a couple different universities that I've been exposed to, but I'm a Nittany Lion in my heart.
Ooh, my.
Did you work at Kennywood?
I did not. No, I did not work at Kennywood. Had a lot of friends who worked there growing up, but no, I never worked there.
How much is education changing? How much has it changed over the last couple of decades?
It's changed quite a bit, and I think it will continue to change. I think, when I think back to the start of my career, which again was just a little bit over 2 decades ago, we didn't even use email. We'd check our email like once a week. Our technology was one computer in the back of the classroom. And you now look at the technology and how it's changing, how instruction is delivered. It's changing at a very rapid pace. I think the fundamentals, good teaching is still good teaching, but our teachers now just have more tools in terms of how they deliver instruction. But I always say, and the research supports it, the most important piece of a student's learning is the teacher in the classroom.
That's good. Well, that's good to know, I think, because as an older person, technology passes us by so quickly. So, as a former teacher, it's good to hear you say that a teacher is still a big part of the process of a high school kid life or any student.
You became superintendent in July of 2018.
Correct.
How challenging is it for you? You were an assistant superintendent before that.
Yes.
Did that make the transition into becoming superintendent of the school district a bit easier for you?
It did. I've been fortunate that I've now been in the district for almost 16 years, and I've held various administrative positions. And so prior to the superintendency, I was the assistant superintendent for 4 years. And it gave me a lot of great experiences. It certainly helped with the transition to be the superintendent. But saying that, when you become a superintendent, it's a different job. And even though I was in the assistant role for a period of time before I went there, you still don't experience and see things and deal with certain matters until you're in the seat. It's like being an assistant coach. You think you maybe know the job of the head coach because you're so close to it, but until you're actually in the role and doing it, you don't fully understand or fully appreciate it. So to answer your question, though, yes, I think my time in Upper St. Clair as the assistant and my previous experience as administrator certainly benefited me in terms of the transition. But there was a lot of new learning. There's new learning every week that happens with the job, that happens on the job. But I'm very grateful that I did have my time here prior to making that career transition.
You were talking about the importance of that teacher in the classroom. How able are you to stay in contact with all of the teachers throughout the district?
Well, I try to be active in our buildings. We have 6 schools here. Fortunately for me, being here as long as I've been, I know the large majority of our employees. We have almost 300 teachers in the district, 500 full-time employees, and then if you add all our part-time employees, coaches, substitutes, we're almost at 900. So it's a lot of employees. But in terms of the teachers and the building, I think my time here has given me the benefit to get to know families, get to know staff. There are some weeks where I'm in the schools more than others, and that's something for me that's important, is having a presence in the schools, people knowing me and seeing me, and being accessible and approachable. I feel that's an important job, the superintendent, and to really have a pulse on what's going on in your schools, and reminding myself and reminding all of us at the district level that the reason we're here is to educate the kids. And so we have to be out there, and we have to be seeing what's happening firsthand.
When you took over the job, did you create for yourself, either formally with a piece of paper and pencil or in your mind, as to what your goals were going to be in that position?
Sure. So I have goals that I have to have approved annually that I present to the school board, and so you always have your formal goals and then kind of your informal goals. And I think for me, going into year one, it was really to try to learn and take as much in as I possibly could. You don't want to come in and try to change too much, particularly in a system like this. It's been very successful for many years. This was a great school district before my time, and it'll be a great school district after my time. And I attribute that to the collective efforts of everyone involved here. We have great kids, great families, great community. A community that values education. There's an old saying that great communities make great schools, and great schools make a great community, and I believe that to be true here. And so part of my goal really is to continue to move the district forward. That was really my basic goal coming in, separate from my official goals, is to continue to move the district forward and to be mindful and respectful of the past, but at the same time to be looking forward, because the people of the past that have built the foundation and to build the great district that we all inherited, they weren't always looking in the rearview mirror. So you have to know where you came from, but also have to be future focused and know that our job is to continue to move the district forward and to take it to new heights. And so it's important work, and I feel very fortunate to be leading the Upper St. Clair School District.
You took over at a time which was pretty exciting too, what with the moving of the school board office and the creation of the new press box and what else, the new swimming pool here at the high school.
Yes. So we have been under construction since the beginning of my tenure as superintendent. Exciting is one word, Lanny, that I would use. It is exciting in terms of when you see the finish line. It certainly has been a process. We had a field house that was put in over at Boyce Middle School, so that was a much smaller scale, but that was part of the larger construction work that was done. The move of the district offices from the township building on McLaughlin Run up to the stadium, we made that move in mid-October. And the swimming pool here at the high school, which was just completed a few weeks ago. So we just had, I believe 3 weeks ago, our first meet in the new pool. And that still is under construction. If you look around the site, there still is work that needs to be finished, paving outside, some additional site work at the stadium. But we are closing in on the finish to the project. So it is exciting to watch it go from start to finish, where we were at the beginning of this to where we're going to be here real soon. And I'm just happy for the students here. I think our students, I know our students deserve first-class facilities, and so glad that we're able to continue to move in that direction.
Excuse me, Jim, I didn't mean to dominate so much.
No, you're asking good questions. And
I try, thank you.
and it gives him a chance to expound. I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but your first couple weeks as the superintendent, there were some harrowing events that took place, and that had to be tough to be in the seat, as you referred to a little while ago.
Yeah, it was. I hadn't even officially moved offices yet. I was still working out of my old office, and a few weeks into the job, we did face some challenges. Obviously, in the world we live in, a lot of media attention around perceived threats to the school, and so we really wanted to make sure that we responded appropriately and did the right thing for our students. And I always say that safety and security has to be the top priority. If you don't have a safe and secure environment, everything else has limits that are placed on it.
I would imagine the last thing a superintendent wants to receive is a phone call from the police. Would that be true?
Yeah, I'd prefer not to have them unless they have good news to share. Fortunately, though, when you work through a challenging situation like that, it's important to really have a good team around you. Our township police, we have a great relationship with them. Chief Wharton, who I know is a previous guest of yours, has been a partner with the school district for a long time. So he was, he was really kind of just getting on board with his role, and he was very helpful and instrumental in that process. And then we had just hired Chief Sean Bryson, who I know is also on the show. And Chief Bryson, we hired him. He was actually one of my first recommendations for hire. He came back to the district after a highly decorated and a very distinguished career in law enforcement in Arlington, Virginia. He was moving back to the Pittsburgh area because he wanted to raise his daughter here in Upper St. Clair. And so he and his wife moved back, and we had a retirement of our former chief. Chief Bryson started July 1, and I cannot imagine going through that without his expertise and without his support. And we've really grown our school police force. Certainly school safety is much larger than just a police force, but having a police force is a piece of it, and we have certified police officers. We targeted a specific profile for our school police. They had to be certified police officers, and they also had to be the right fit to work in schools and work with children. And we received many strong applications for those positions, but not everyone was necessarily fit to work in a school setting. And Chief Bryson and his team have just done tremendous work here. And when we went through that initial startup and we had some challenges, we certainly were tested right out of the gate. And having good people around you like him makes a world of difference. So I'm very thankful that I had a strong supporting cast. And when you go through things like that, you get better. You get better at what you do. And I'm glad to say that, almost 2 years out, I think in terms of what we're offering here, safety and security has been significantly enhanced. There's no foolproof plan, but we just have to continue to work to be the best we can in terms of keeping our kids safe.
How about talking about the new building that your offices are now in? And I think it's a beautiful building there above the stadium. And
yes, thank you.
What's the strengths of being up there as compared to the old township building?
Well, I think it's being on the campus, being on with one of your schools is certainly a strength. I think at least in terms of the high school, you're seeing a lot more interaction between the district offices and the high school. There's always been very strong interaction, but you see the administration in the high school much more, going over there more frequently. But I think it's also allowed us to strengthen our collaboration. We really, at our former offices, had outgrown the space. We had 5 people in that building sharing offices, and these, in fact, our 2 assistant superintendents actually shared an office. So we had really outgrown the building. We only had one large room for meeting space, and that was the school board room. And so it was time that we needed a new facility to meet the district's needs. And so the new building up there, the second floor is primarily where all the district offices are. The first floor of the building is really just the welcome area, the lobby, and then you have concession stands, restrooms, storage. So in terms of offices, there's nothing on the first floor. Mainly on the second floor, and then on the third floor there are some offices, but that's where you see a lot of the space devoted to the stadium and the usage of the stadium. So a press box, game management center, 2 coaching rooms, there's conference rooms up there, school board room is up there. So that's mainly what the third floor consists of. But it's a great facility. We're very appreciative the community support for it. And it's we're very proud of what we have.
Lanny, his office was scheduled to face the rear of the building, and I strongly encouraged him that during the construction. I said it can still be changed so that your office is out front, facing the field. And we got that done. Didn't we?
So actually, fortunate the office I have, I'm able to look at the parking lot and the field. So I have windows on both sides of the building, and it is nice to look out and see students too. In our offices down McLaughlin Road, again, you're off campus, but I look out, I see kids on the field, you see kids on the track, you see kids in the parking lot, you see kids coming in and out of school. Just really appreciate that, and I'm glad to be up there.
I'm glad I'm not conducting practice anymore with the superintendent scrutinizing.
Where's education going? What are the new trends in education?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think we know for certain where education's going, but I think we know that it is potentially the next industry to be significantly disrupted. And so what I mean by that is I think if you continue to do business like you've been doing business, there is a chance that at some point in time you may not be in business. And so we're looking at continuing to try to support the fundamentals and the good practices that we know that have helped our kids be successful life after Upper St. Clair High School. But at the same time, we have to be continuing to have an eye on innovative programming. And so what we're kicking off this spring is our new strategic plan. Our 5-year plan is about to expire. We will embark on a new one this spring that will be effective beginning next school year. And part of that is one of the focus areas in that plan will be on academics, curriculum, and programming with a clear lens or clear focus on innovation. And so we may not have all the answers of what education is going to look like 5-10 years from now. But what we know is it's going to continue to change, and we need to be ahead of that curve, and we need to be meeting our students' needs. And so there's a lot of work to be done in that area. And as we embark on that strategic plan, one of the things here we're very fortunate about is we have great support from all of our stakeholders. And so when we kick off this strategic plan, it's going to include community members. It includes parents, teachers, administrators, school board, students, the entire, really any stakeholder that's involved. In fact, we just sent out our initial information for requests for participation. We already have close to 90 community members and parents. And then if you add in our staff and school board that will participate, we'll probably end up being close to 200 people participating in that process, which is really exceptional. You don't see that everywhere. And so the work of that group is really twofold. One is we're going to reset the mission, vision, and shared values of the district. And then the second piece is to really determine the work that needs to be hyper-focused over the next 5 years. And so we will be looking at things such as our academic programming. We will be looking at our operations, which include a great deal of things such as technology, facilities, safety, and security. The other focus will be on wellness. And we'll be looking at programming related to that. So there's a lot of things that will be included in this plan, and we will have all the right people involved to making sure that we're continuing to move the district forward and have very specific goals, have essential activities that allow us to meet those goals. And then we also have to be able to measure our success. So there will be benchmarks in there to making sure that we're staying on track. And that's how we will remain competitive. That's how we will continue to lead the pack. And that's how we will be able to deal with the changes that we will be faced with as the profession changes. And it will continue to change as we move into the next 5, 10, 20 years because we see how much has changed just within the short period of time that some of us have been in the profession.
The fact that you're a graduate of a private school, which Sarah Catholic,
Yes.
And now you're the superintendent of a public school, what are your thoughts as it relates to the discussions that are going on in our society about public and private and the commitments that that people need to make as it relates to those two issues, those two institutions?
Sure. Well, I think obviously it's an individual choice. It's a family's choice where they want to send their children. Like I said, I spent my entire upbringing in a private school, and my entire career I've worked in a public school. And I live in the Upper St. Clair, and there's a reason my 3 children go to a public school. I believe that a strong public school education can't be topped. And so when I see what we offer kids here in our school district, and there are many other districts that offer great educational experience as well, I think that I'm a supporter of public education. Again, as a product of private school, it served me well, but when I look at and compare the experience that my children are receiving here, you can't compare the two. And so tremendous resources, tremendous community support, great teachers. And when I first started working here, we did not live in the district. And at that time, my oldest daughter, who's now a freshman at the high school here, she was just born. And she was a month old when I started at Fort Couch as an assistant principal. And we didn't have intentions of moving here. And shortly after, probably about 6 months into the job, I had said to my wife, we're moving to Upper St. Clair. What they do there is just, I've never seen it before. And I'd be saying that if I wasn't the superintendent. This is a great place, just a great experience for kids. Nowhere's perfect, but this place is really good. And that's not because of any one individual. It's not because of me. It's because of, again, the collective efforts. And we're just so fortunate that we have that here. This community has very strong support, as you both know, for the schools and for education, and that's been in place for a long time, and I anticipate that's going to be the case as we move into the future. So
yeah, I'm very pleased that I had my two children come through the Upper St. Clair School District. You mentioned your daughter's a freshman at the high school.
Yes.
Your other two children, where are they?
So I have three children. My oldest is a ninth grader. I have a daughter in ninth grade at the high school. My son is in fifth grade at Boyce, and then my youngest daughter is in kindergarten at Eisenhower. So we're all over the board in our house. But it's interesting. I have one at each level. So I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and elementary school. And I will tell you that it benefits me a lot in my job because it gives me a different perspective. I have the parent perspective, but I also have the perspective of each level in our entire district, and so I think it serves me well. And you know,
how does your daughter feel about being the daughter of the superintendent of the school?
Well, all of my kids are my two younger, my youngest daughter and my son. I think they're very proud. And they probably tell too many people that I'm the superintendent. My oldest daughter, and it's probably excuse me, her age, but it's also her disposition. She's more quiet, reserved. She doesn't like to cross paths in the high school too often. I think she kind of wants to be just treated like everyone else, which is what I want for her. I will say, though, I saw her up here about a month ago, and I was standing right outside the theater here, and I heard Dad. And I didn't look at first because I thought there's no way she's calling me in public. And then I heard it again, and I looked, and it was her, and she came over and gave me a hug, and just made my day. But I wasn't expecting that. But generally speaking, she prefers to just fly under the radar and nobody know.
You told me a story. She's very interested in was it politics or?
Yes, she's very interested. She's very attentive to politics, and really keeps up on it, and is just interested. I wouldn't be surprised if she goes in that direction with her career. She's talked about law, and so no, she's in fact a lot of my information I get from her.
Now, speaking of information, I was going to ask you this when you were talking about kids at each level. Do you ever learn something at the dinner table that you're not real happy about?
Great question.
Come on now, you can tell us.
Yes, but I will tell you one of the things I've learned as a parent is you can't always believe everything your kids tell you. And so I will say, though, for the most part, my three children really love the system. They are at the school district and their friends and the staff. My son just the other night, he was talking about who his favorite teacher is, and next thing you know, he's rattled off 7 names in the building. I said, well, you just named everyone you have this year. And so the point being is I think I hear a lot more positive feedback and how much the kids really enjoy the experience. And then from having children here, obviously they have friends, and you get to know families, and I coach in the community. And so the feedback that I get is overwhelmingly positive. Have there been times where you hear things that you're maybe not happy about? Sure. But I think by and large, it's overwhelmingly positive, and that's always good to hear. I always appreciate it, some positive feedback.
Did you change your cell phone number yet?
No, I have not, even though
I gave him some advice.
You've recommended that.
Number?
Well, he coaches, and he's active, and he lives in the community, and then when he got this top job, I said, you got to change that cell phone number. You can't give the whole community access to you.
Well, good luck with that. Dr. Rozzo, congratulations to you on the great work that you're doing as the superintendent of the Upper St. Clair School District.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
We really appreciate you joining us on the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And that's the end of this edition of 15241 Today Talk. Thank you for joining us.